Hello, hello. This video will be looking at my collection of hockey cards that started mostly in the 90s and continued on into the early 2000s. You can see by some of the things that are stuck on the front of it, you can age that decently enough. Alexander Mogilny was one of my favorite players at the time. Q107, got to listen to the Maple Leaf broadcasts, and Batman Robin sticker, the stickers for the World Cup team of Iran. Not sure what that might have been. Let's start over here. Probably my most valuable cards are stuck here on the side, inside of this type of case. Pavel Bure. He was my favorite hockey player. Probably still is if I had to choose one, although I try not to idolize other human beings too much. But he was considered to be pretty good at scoring goals. And at the time I started collecting his cards, he was still quite young and was considered to have a very good future ahead of him. Oops, made you look at my cat food. Here's another very nice card, yeah? See how that's cut like that? It's very cool. Another Bure card. Most exciting player. He was an exciting player to watch. So when we would collect cards, my brother and I, sometimes we would trade cards, and he liked certain players and I liked certain players, and he liked certain teams and I liked certain teams, and we'd often trade cards so that we could, maximize our happiness with cards that are important to us. I've got this photo here. I always thought it was cool that I had a photo of the Stanley Cup. But this two people standing with somebody named Murphy. He's the one in the middle. He's the one who was on the team that won the Stanley Cup. He visited them, and they got to see the Stanley Cup in their backyard. And we got to have a photo of that family with him. Thought it was just so cool to have a photo of somebody with the Stanley Cup. That's him, Larry Murphy, that's his name, Larry, for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I don't think he won the Stanley Cup with the Maple Leafs, though. Anyway, that one is signed. I don't know if that would have any value or not. Probably not. This card, though, would have been quite valuable if it hadn't been for the tape marks. Apparently it doesn't want to come out, so that's okay. I'm not going to pull it out. It's a Gordie Howe card. It belonged to my father at one point. He taped all his cards into a book, hence the tape marks. I think it still could fetch something, but probably not much. So over here, we've got a page full of Pavel Bure. Now that I think of it, I probably idolized him way too much as a kid. Probably way too much. And I idolized the Vancouver Canucks. The other day I was thinking back to when I had this really cool Vancouver Canucks hat, and remembering how it got stolen at school, and how disappointed I felt, how saddened I was by having had this hat of mine being stolen at this Christian school, no less. I was praying for people who had, people that I personally don't like, praying for my enemies, I call it. And I don't know who stole my hat, but I asked God to bless the person who stole my hat, to show mercy to them, show mercy on them. So whoever it was, and it's funny that somebody popped to my head as soon as I started thinking about that. I don't know if it was God telling me or not, but I may know who it was if that person was the person who stole it. So maybe God was telling me who it was that stole it so I could forgive them. Actually forgive them. Here we are. Some more. This is Alexander Mogilny. And for a short time, he played on the Canucks with Pavel Bure. They were both goal-scoring phenoms. Absolutely amazing goal scorers. And to have them on the same team at the same time was just... I always thought that team should win the Stanley Cup, but it did not. Oh, I really do like this one. I think I liked this style very much when I was younger. Here we go. Kirk McLean was the goalie who took the Canucks to the Stanley Cup Finals the year that I became a Canucks fan. The story behind that was my family and I were moving to Nong Khai, a small town in northern Thailand. We stayed in between for a few nights at another family's house, and they had access to cable, and they recorded hockey games onto VHS tape. And when I was there, I spent some time watching some of the playoffs, and I got to watch some of the Canucks playoffs. I think it was the first, second round, some games against the Flames and the North Stars, the Minnesota North Stars. And getting to watch the Canucks that time, I was interested because a lot of people were talking about how they were an unlikely story. They were kind of like an underdog team, but that had potential to make it all the way. And so I decided to make them my favorite team because they also had Pavel Bure at the time, and the game announcers, the broadcast would always hype up Pavel Bure so much. He'd call him the Russian Rocket, and I thought that was such a cool name, Russian Rocket. If I could have a name, I would like to be a rocket, a kind of rocket that zoom in fast as I can. All right, so now we've got some other teams besides the Canucks. These are probably just players that I ended up having a lot of in my collection. So if I have a lot of one player, I would put them inside my book, I guess. Doug Gilmour. He was quite the stalwart player. Back to Pavel Bure, that he did manage to have a pretty decent career, but it ended up being marred by a lot of injuries, knee injuries, that would cut his career short because of it. He still did end up making it into the Hall of Fame, though, so there's that. Theorin, I think I would always call him Theorin. Fleury, he was a player that had a smaller body, smaller stature, but there were a few players like that. It was a little bit smaller, but they had determination, they had grit, they gave it their all on the ice, and so they were able to overcome the size deficiency by having those qualities. This team no longer exists in the NHL, at least not as the Quebec Nordiques. Bit of a tragic story, really. They ended up being relocated to Colorado, became the Colorado Avalanche. And before they moved to Colorado, they always sucked. And then as soon as they moved to Colorado, they suddenly start winning Stanley Cups. So go figure. Les Canadiens, Montreal Canadiens, Saku Koivu, Kirk Muller there. A lot of Kirk Muller. I didn't particularly like him, but somehow he ended up having so many of his cards, so might as well put them in the book. Basically, if I had two of a person, it would go in the book. Matt Sundin, pretty well-known player, also another Hall of Fame player, I'm sure. Peter Bondra. Washington Capitals. Ottawa Senators, Alexander Daigle. I don't think I'm pronouncing that correctly. I think he was one of those players that might have had a good career, except he ended up being injured too often. There are a number of players that got hurt and ended up not being the same as they used to be. Ice hockey is a pretty violent sport. If there's something that I loved about it but hate about hockey today is the violence. I would say this violence is not becoming of humanity. I'm not a fan of it. I would make fighting illegal, and some of these body checks that send people into the boards just are absolutely brutal and can cause life-altering injuries, literally. Life-ending sometimes, I think. It's just a matter of time before someone's neck gets snapped on being sent into the boards the way people are sending them into the boards. Rick Tocchet, interesting. I have quite a bit of him. Funny story today. Rick Tocchet is the head coach of the Vancouver Canucks this season. He's done a good job coaching them into quite a successful campaign. They might actually make a decent Stanley Cup playoff run this year, which is really strange because last year they couldn't even make the playoffs. The Vancouver Canucks have never won the Stanley Cup. That is the name of the championship in the NHL, National Hockey League. They've never won a Stanley Cup. They've made it to the finals 3 times on 3 occasions, 4 occasions, but 3 occasions while I was still alive, and came up short every time. And a couple times they came up short, but they came very close. It was so heartbreaking. Boston Bruins, Cam Neely, another goal scorer. I always really liked this card a lot. Before I loved the Canucks, I actually liked the Bruins, funnily enough. Winnipeg Jets. Oh, check out this helmet. Oh, that is so sick. Come on. I love those colors. Vincent Damphus. Khabibulin or Khabibulin. They call it the Bulin Wall. No entry. There was just one time I opened a hockey card pack and got a card that was had a chance of getting it. It was only 1 out of every 256 packs, and I was so stoked. But it wasn't actually a card. It was this sort of thing that I had to send in. I mailed it in, and then they sent me back this really special hockey card. It wasn't made of paper. It was made of plastic, and you could move it left and right, and it moved. It had this little clip inside of it that when you moved it left to right, you could see a clip of it highlight. It was really amazing, and I was so stoked to have it. I brought it to school the next day, and I wanted to show my friends, and believe it or not, somebody, I don't know who it was, dropped it on the ground and got all scratched up. Probably somebody who hated me. Fair enough. Maybe I should pray for that person too. I don't even know who it was. Heavenly Father, please bless the person who dropped my card. I don't know if they did it on purpose or whatever. If they were jealous, whatever. Bless them. Have mercy on them, I pray. No justice. I don't want justice, not for me. Don't hold it against them on my part. Who's that? Marcus Naslund. Oh, so he's in here too. I always really loved this jersey, this red one. Never owned one, but it was the thing I would have loved having so much as a 10 to 12, 13-year-old boy. Gino Odjick. So these are just all the various Canuck cards, I guess, that I put together at the end. Vancouver Canucks, really old card there in the middle. That's one of my dad's cards that I inherited, I guess. This card, Sergio Momesso, probably my favorite card, just because he just looks so bad ass. Sorry, excuse my English, but I mean, look at that face. Look at that jawline. True story, I tried to ask a hairdresser to give me a hairstyle like this. I said, I want my hair to look like this. He must have been like, so you want to look like you're always skating really fast with the wind pushing your hair back? Well, probably couldn't have pulled it off as a 10-year-old kid, I know, but had my hair slicked back. There's Wayne Gretzky. I was never really a fan of his. It was boring, if you ask me. His face just boring. Boring face. Sorry, Wayne. But I was never a big fan of yours. I preferred the underdogs. I preferred the ones that didn't win. And how funny it would be that I would end up becoming a fan of the team that never wins. So this one was also one I really liked, that face. Cliff Ronning, another one of those smaller guys who just had good hands and grit and played smart, was able to make an impact on the game. Some weirdo Pepsi cards from football. The further back we go, the less I care about these less I cared about these cards for sure. I even cared so little about this card that I drew on him. What was I thinking? Okay, I drew on this one too. And that will be the end of it. Got one empty page right here. How hard is it to open these up right now? Man, they seem stuck shut. All right, there you have it. This collection does bring me a little bit of joy, but I'd be willing to let go of it if there's anyone out there who would get some enjoyment from these. Let me know. I will put my email in the description. Send me an email telling me if you're interested in obtaining this collection. And who knows, could be yours. I hope you have a nice day. I love you. And peace.